Today we're talking about Patreon, Buy Me a Coffee, and Ko-fi. What are three different platforms to be able to actually mess around with and be able to earn money from creating content or doing something else on the internet. So first of all, what is each platform and what do they do? And maybe a little bit on the fees side of things. First of all, Patreon is the main one that most people will probably know. It's something that allows you to be able to post up little videos and things, maybe early from YouTube and things, and that allows you to be able to make monthly subscriptions from people that may want to be able to see your content early, and that's really, really awesome about it. For some content creators, it is unviable, so they don't really post early. They're just like, hey, by the way, you can just follow and do all of that, and it's normally a monthly fee. It's Buy Me a Coffee and Ko-fi, two different platforms, by the way. One with a K, one with a C. Buy Me a Coffee being with the C, and Ko-fi being with a K. It's like lo-fi, but coffee. Those allow not only a monthly subscription, but it is the case of they also allow a singular fee. You can just do a one-off payment. And that's great for some people because that means that we can do something really awesome and maybe someone turns around and goes, hey, here's some money. I really like that really nice thing that you've done. Or it might be the case of like, hey, I can't really afford most of the time, but here you go, here's £1. And that's great. And that means that we get to be able to do all of that. But there's fees when it comes to these sorts of platforms, and the fees sort of affect how that pound may be split between us, the platform, and maybe a third party that we have to use. So what do I mean by about third party that we may have to use? With platforms like Buy Me a Coffee, Ko-fi, and as well as Patreon, it is the case of you will most likely have to use PayPal or Stripe. And those are the two major platforms that we use. I really personally do not like PayPal. PayPal is just, it's something that I've always been reluctant about. And then on top of that, when money goes into PayPal, it doesn't go into your bank. And then there's extra fees that if you want to take it out of PayPal to go into your bank and things like that. And there's a lot that goes into that. We could probably, I'm not sure if there's a fee to put into PayPal, probably not, and that's where you'll probably lose a little bit less money if you do use PayPal, and it's probably the benefit of using PayPal over something like Stripe. But those are of course the payment managers, payment sorters and things like that. We're not going to be using them. We're going a step back further and using of course Patreon, Ko-fi, or Buy Me a Coffee to be able to of course do these payments in the first place. That's what we're trying to get people onto, to be able to then click that button and go, yeah, I'm happy to pay you money. So the way the payment fees work for these platforms is Patreon is something like 8 to 12%. I'm unsure if they do have a lower plan than their pro plan. On their website, it is just says pro and professional. I'm very confused about it. If you know anything more about them, then please say in the comments. And then on Buy Me a Coffee side, it's 5%, but they do use Stripe to be able to process their payments, meaning it's an extra 5% to be able to process. PayPal probably has a very similar 5% system, but it's the case of they've had a lot of issues with them reducing, or if you get paid a lot of money in one go and it's all on your account, they can just shut it down. They can turn around and go, hey, we think it's suspicious activity. They then hold it for about 6 weeks, 6 months. They hold that money for 6 months, and what they do with that money then is they take it. And if you do not dispute it and they don't reply and things like that, and you need like a conversation and possibly court cases and things involved, you get none of that money. And that's one of the reasons that I wouldn't use PayPal personally. But if you want to use PayPal, go ahead and use it. And then there's Ko-fi. Ko-fi uses 5% as well. Only, there's multiple different ways. I'll show a little graph on screen. You've got the free plan, you've got the contributor plan, and then you've got the gold. Gold we'll talk about in a moment. Let's just remove that. So there's the free plan and the contributor plan. This is the original things that you'll probably do. The benefits are here. These are some of the benefits that you get from it. A lot of the benefits are pretty much what you'll get on most other platforms. So you probably want to go to the contributor plan and get those benefits, and it's really helpful to be able to schedule posts and things. If you're just creating content or you're like schedule them a day earlier than what you would release them on YouTube, especially if you bulk create content. But if you did want to go for the free plan, it means that one-off payments, if that's your only way of payments, get 0% fees. It does mean that when you link up a PayPal or Stripe account, you do still have to go by their fees. Like I mentioned before, PayPal probably doesn't have fees to be able to have the money transferred to PayPal, but it's going to have money, like payment fees to be able to transfer it back to the bank account. I'm unsure if it's both ways or anything like that, so don't quote me on PayPal. PayPal is not a platform I use. But if you do the contributor stuff, it does give you those small benefits. And if you get to the point that you're maybe earning £100, £200 a month from this sort of system, instead of doing the 5% fee, you might want to do something like their gold plan. Their gold plan, it gives you the exact same things and even allows you to be able to remove the contributor badge, which means that you don't have to worry about it on there, or you can just keep it. To be honest, it's a badge that just turns around to go, hey, I helped the platform that I'm currently working on or using, and all that. It's not something that you should remove, really. The major thing about this is that you only pay $6 to $8 a month. The $8 is obviously the monthly. If you want to pay all in one go, then you pay the $6. If you want to be able to convert them to roughly pounds, it's going to be about £60 a year to be able to actually have this platform. Or you can turn around and pay £6.50 a month and have the exact same system. So it's not too terrible. If you think £10 a month pretty much pays for that, as the rest of the money, free. You pretty much, well, it's not free, obviously, people have to send you it, but you don't have any commission fees for at least the platform. If PayPal doesn't take any money from that transaction between the two, then there you go. PayPal's probably the best bet to be able to keep as much money as that possible, as long as they don't take the money and run with it. But it is the case of, you could go to Stripe, like I do, and we do all of that. So what sort of creators and things should use what platform, really? Well, there's no real set platform that a creator should use. If you're a Twitch streamer or something like that, I definitely do suggest like Coffee. Coffee seems to be a real big thing that people use and try and use and mess around with and stuff like that. And I personally use it for our stuff, for Transpride Southampton, and we get a little notification or every time that someone donates to us whilst we're streaming. And that's great because we can thank everyone and go, thank you so much for the donation, and then move on. And that's great about that. As the other platforms, maybe Patreon has a system like that, but I'm very unsure because I did not want to set up a Patreon to be able to just work out this video, because I do a video every day and I'd rather not sit there for most of my day working at Patreon, especially as their fees seem to be reasonably high. But we have used Buy Me a Coffee. Buy Me a Coffee doesn't have anything like that for streamers and things, so if you are a streamer, I suggest Coffee over anything else. If you're a video creator, use any platform. Literally any of the three platforms is completely fine. If you prefer one over the other, go ahead and use that. That's not a problem at all. If you're a game creator, use any platform. Coffee's probably the best bet for you though. And that's the thing, most of the time, Coffee is probably the best bet for most people, especially as the fees are about the same or less. If you turn around and actually earn money per month, you can of course reduce that and go, hey, I'm paying like £6.50 a month. That's fine. I'm happy to pay £6.50 a month to be able to do that. I pay it for music, or I pay it for YouTube Premium, or you used to pay it for Disney Plus. Pretty much all of the other platforms are more expensive, so it's less than Disney Plus. You're paying less than Disney Plus just to be able to get more money in the end of the day. If you are earning, of course, like close to £100 or £200 in payments from people anyway. Who do I not suggest to use these platforms? I don't really suggest people who are just wanting money. Like, the only reason that I haven't created a Coffee account or a Patreon or anything for this YouTube channel is I don't upload often enough. I don't create good enough content in my eyes, but it's also the case of I feel like I can't make bonus content if I'm not even creating the original content that I'm promising anyway. And that's not something that I would suggest people to do. If you are live streaming or anything like that, have a Coffee. It's fine. Have Coffee or Patreon or just something in your little description or your panels area or whatever on Twitch. That's fine. People do donate when it comes to Twitch streams and things, especially if you're entertaining. So happy to do that. That's not too terrible to do. And it's not terrible to set up these platforms. They're free to use anyway. They're not something that you have to really worry about or do anything. You may have to maintain them, but it's the case of I wouldn't suggest most random people to be able to create one. I wouldn't suggest everyone's mom to create one, or everyone's dad to create one, or everyone's grandma to create one, just so that they end up with money. Might be kind of cool to be able to have your grandma donate to you on Twitch or something like that. That kind of sounds hilarious and probably will happen in the like 30 years time. That's very strange to think about. The thing is about it is you're not limited to content creators. If you're creating content on TikTok, on YouTube, Twitch, wherever you're creating content, short form live streams, or even just normal based content like this video right here, but there's no need to not do it, but there's no need to do it when you're early on. If you're 1,000 subscribers, 100 subscribers, or anything like that, maybe you can possibly think about it, because there might be that one-off person that might go, I'll donate, that's fine. I'll pay towards your passion, that's fine. But you don't have to be a content creator. You can be a game creator. You could be just someone who needs money for whatever reason, instead of using like a Kickstarter campaign or anything like that, because Kickstarter is very strange. You can pretty much use these platforms as a Kickstarter instead of anything else. And Ko-fi does have discoverability. I've searched up trans people and things like that on Ko-fi, and I've been able to find a decent portion of trans people that are turning around and trying to get top surgery or bottom surgery, or just any type of surgery or hormones or anything like that. And that's really awesome to be able to see other people turn around and doing that, and would love to follow on their journey. But it's also the case of like, I don't know them personally or anything like that, and that's something that if you're not creating content on other platforms, or if you're not releasing updates on other platforms or anything, it's not really helpful. And if you're a game creator, obviously it might be slightly helpful, but you still want to be posting stuff on Instagram or Facebook, or probably not Twitter. Twitter's very bad, especially for trans people at the moment. I'd avoid Twitter, maybe go to Threads instead. Like Twitter or Threads, one or the other, or both, whatever you want to do. There's many areas to be able to, of course, publish about things, but there's less areas on the internet to be paid. And that's one of the major things about these platforms, is people pay other people instead of ads or taking your data or doing this or doing that. There's many other ways of being able to, of course, run the internet, and the main three ways is people like paying other people, like Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee and Ko-fi. You've got ads that serve ads towards you, maybe takes a little bit of your personal data to be able to understand what ads you may like. And then there's stealing your data and selling them to advertisers anyway. So I much prefer the Patreon, Ko-fi, and Buy Me a Coffee method. And I do suggest people Ko-fi over any of them. And then there's OnlyFans.